Hello, folks. Welcome to the Laravel News Podcast. My name is Jake Bennett. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Mr. Michael Dorinda. We are on episode 246. It is September 30th, 2025. No pre-show. Folks, if you want pre-show, you have to talk to us. Say something on X or on Blue Sky. Just say anything, and we'll bring it back. And if you say nothing, then we're just going to keep it like this. Does that sound fair, Michael?
Pre-show again. Yeah.
No pre-show.
Find another podcast.
That's right. No, don't. Just
stay here. But we'll go straight into it. Ready? There is a new local error page in Laravel 12.29. Ryuta Hamasaki and Jeremy Butler created a brand new local exception page for Laravel applications. The new exception page retains the copy as markdown button that was released in 12.25 and removes manual dark light toggles in favor of automatically detecting light and dark mode. You can see pull request 57,036 for details. This is very nice. It leans, I think, very much into the kind of design language that they've got inside of Nightwatch. So there's some consistency there between what you see locally and what you'll see in Nightwatch if you are using that for your error monitoring on your Laravel applications. Joao Pedro Lopez, along with various community developers and core Laravel team members, contributed a cache session driver. It is best to read through the discussion and code in pull request 56.887, but an example from that is talking about sticky database connections across requests. Now, I saw some discussion about this. Why would you use session for cache and things like that? The benefit of using the session driver for your cache is that it is tied to your user's authentication session. So you don't have to worry about cleanup and things like that. As soon as they log out, then obviously that cache is expired. So this is very useful if you need to, for example, a multi-tenant context. You want to switch the database connection and have a persistent connection, for example. The example in the pull request goes more specifically into a sticky database connection. So if you've got reads and writes split, it will set all of your writes and reads to share the connection, just to make sure that you don't have any latency between reads and writes there. So definitely look into the pull request for more details.
Can I interrupt 2 seconds? So we actually have this exact problem on our I'm salary, so it doesn't matter as much. But for the people who have to clock in and out, people who are just getting started at our company, when they go to clock in, and they're like, it didn't happen. Like I pressed clock in, and then it doesn't show as a clock in. And then it's eventually consistent. But the problem is that it's using a separate database. It goes and hits one of the databases, and then eventually it gets around to syncing back with the database that they're actually viewing. And so it's very annoying. You have to explain to them, no, you click it once. Don't click it 3 times until you see it. Like just click it one time. It recorded. It's just not going to show up immediately because it doesn't use this, right? It doesn't use sticky sessions. It doesn't, pin you to a database. It basically just says, just write to whatever one and read from whatever one. And it's super annoying. So anyway, this is a really cool contribution. Love this.
For sure. Next up, Luca Patera contributed the ability to define custom resource classes directly on a model using PHP attributes. And using these attributes, you can avoid boilerplate when converting a model to the intended resource. So previously you had to say, model to resource and then pass it the class string that represents that, or to a resource collection and the class string of that. Now you can just call to resource or to resource collection on the model or the collection itself. And then you can use resource or use resource collection attributes on the model itself to define the class string for what those are.
Very nice.
So thanks to Luca for that one. And lastly, in this release, Danny Foster contributed a JSON flag to the schedule list artisan command, which will return the data as a JSON object, which is useful for monitoring deployments and integrations. So this is fantastic if you will, need to send that data somewhere, if you're monitoring that things have been run or when they should run and things like that, which enables neat commands that are piped to things like JQ for monitoring to ensure scheduled tasks exist during a deployment. So we'll leave that up to you, dear listener, to delve into further, but that is all for 12.29.
Very cool. Hey, for those of you who happen to be using Inertia, Infinite Scroll is now available in Inertia version 2.2. This was released with this new Infinite Scroll component, and this will likely be a huge time saver if you, dear listener, have ever had to build an infinite scroll feature by hand. This update introduces this new Inertia scroll method. And good news, it works seamlessly with Laravel's existing full, simple, or cursor pagination. So it's not anything brand new you have to do in Laravel. It works the exact same as the rest of it does. You now just wrap it in that Inertia scroll on the server side. On the client side, you wrap your content in this new infinite scroll component. So the really cool things that this offers you is that it works, number one, with Vue, React, Svelte. It's got a component for each of them. It will also update the URL as you scroll down the page. So if you're halfway down the page and you want to share that link with a friend, you copy the URL, paste it to them, and it will land them in the same place on the page that you were at when you copied the link. Scrolling back up the page also updates that URL. So it's not just as you progress down through, it'll also, as you progress back up through it, it will update the URL as well. If you happen to jump to a particular location, paste that URL, it will backfill those pages on those earlier pages on the page refresh. And then it also has bidirectional scrolling out of the box, including reverse mode. So you can say scroll up to load the next page or scroll down to load the previous pages. I'm not sure why you would do that, other than sort of Apple has that like natural gesture sort of thing. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why. I don't know exactly. But in any case, it's possible. Configurable flexible options, as you would assume. There's also manual mode for complete control of the loading so that you can really dig in and configure that exactly as you'd like to. There is infinite scroll documentation in the Inertia docs as well, so you can check that out. Really cool addition. I know I've seen a lot of people talking about this on Twitter, Taylor included, and so this is a really, really nice one. If you've had to do this by hand before, no longer. Now you can use this infinite scroll straight in Inertia. Love it. Really cool.
Yeah, shout out to Pascal and the team that have been working on this. It's very cool that, as Laravel has taken on ownership of Inertia, the project, and they can dedicate time and resources to it. It's really cool to see the progression. It was always considered like a feature complete thing from Jonathan's perspective, I think, because, he didn't really have time to work on it. So the fact that Taylor and Laravel saw that there was more to be done and that they had the resources to get dedicated to it, now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. So shout out to everyone involved in keeping Inertia performant and functional and living and breathing. So very cool. The Laravel team launched a public beta of the Laravel MCP package, which is a package to rapidly build model context protocol servers for your Laravel applications. Laravel MCP joins Laravel Boost as a first-party tool that makes working with AI in Laravel a joy to build. So the MCP package itself will provide you a framework for AI clients to interact with your application, defining routes, servers, prompts, and more. Servers define the central communication point to provide capabilities such as tools, resources, and prompts. And there is an example of a current weather tool in the documentation that gives you a quick taste of building with Laravel MCP. So you define a handle method and a schema method. So very familiar stuff if you've built jobs or anything like that in Laravel. Laravel MCP is released to the public as a beta version, but it already feels like a polished Laravel package, and it feels very much like building MVC Laravel applications. We think that the package itself will help the Laravel community productively build MCP servers that are not only a joy to use, but also to build. With the beta release, there are a lot of resources to get started, so check out the Laravel MCP documentation, the MCP repo. There is a demo application called Locket. There is a web demo app in Laravel Cloud. There is the announcement post from Laravel, and there is a video from Nuno Maduro, who worked on this with Ashley Hindle, I believe, introducing Laravel MCP itself. We have links to all of that for you in the show notes, of course.
Can I just make sure? So for those of you who are with me, sometimes thinking about like, okay, you hear MCP, what exactly are we talking about here, right? To be clear, this is allowing you to define tools and endpoints for your Laravel application that would then be exposed as an MCP for LLMs to interact with. So if your application provides some novel sort of tools that you would like to expose, you can do so using this tool. It allows you to, it sort of has conventions around how you should structure these things and how you should expose those as an MCP server. So that's the idea here. You know, I know there's a lot of talk about some of these things. What exactly is this one? That's what this one is. That it you know, really, you know, it's built by the Laravel team, so you can say that this would be the Laravel way to build your own MCP server. So well done by the team there, and really excited to check that one out.
From my perspective, I understand what this is and what it enables. What I don't understand is why you would do it. If you could explain to me why I would want to provide an AI interface for someone sitting in their Claude or whatever to then talk to my web application, I would like for you to explain that to me.
Can I take a shot?
You can try.
Okay, so let's say that I have an application that I'm building that allows clients, let's define them as insurance carriers, okay? Those are the people. They're wanting to deliver their claims to a vendor on the outside, okay? So my application sits in the middle between the insurance carrier and the vendor. I take aggregate data from the insurance carrier and documents and things like that, and I format them into a consistent data structure that I can ingest from any insurance carrier, and I sort of standardize those fields for vendors to then take and work with. It's possible that I would want the vendor themselves, instead of just using APIs to be able to interact with that data, I want to expose to them an endpoint where they can ask questions about the inventory that has been assigned to them from that insurance carrier, for example. So they could say, how many claims do I currently have outstanding? They could ask that question from the LLM, and it would be able to use the tool that I've exposed to say, here you go, this is how many you have. Or how many claims do I currently have assigned that have a balance greater than $10,000? There you go, right? And so it could interact with it that way. I suppose that would be maybe a valid use case for why you would use something like this.
So
like
then
natural language queries, almost, sort of. You know, like,
and then someone on the other side has to then link that up with your MCP
correct.
server.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they'd have to have somebody sophisticated enough on their side to say, okay, we have an LLM and we need to hook it up to your MCP server, and away you go. At this point, some of it I feel like is like marketing speak too. So like you can say, hey, we're releasing an MCP server with our particular service as well, and some tech heads are going to be like, no way, you guys are ahead of the curve. You're releasing, I don't know. Yeah. I get what you're saying though too. Yeah.
I'm sure one day, it took me 3 years to figure out what this is all about. So I'm sure one day in about 3 years, someone will show me something that makes me go, okay.
That's it. Right. For sure. Okay. Speaking of things that are being released, Filament 4.1 is here. Really excited to announce this one. Since 4.0 was released, the core team and community have been really hard at work. There's been 156 bug fixes that have been merged and 39 brand new features. So we're going to go through a couple of the new features in 4.1, some of our favorites. There is a new panel layout. So in the traditional layout with Filament, you'd have a top bar, you'd have a sidebar, and then you have the main content. You can now do it no top bar. So this is perfect for apps that really need all of that vertical space, right? They want to maximize the vertical space there. So the user menu, notification button, global search, they get moved to the sidebar, which then opens up some interesting theming possibilities, if you will. So it looks really good. There's a screenshot and a little video demo in the blog post here. You should definitely check that one out. Shout out to Nolan Nordland for his time that was spent on that feature. There also is some interesting things that are available inside of their rich editor. So the rich editor is like this text field. Think like tricks, right? You have bolding, italicize, all that sort of stuff. They now have this ability to insert responsive grids into that rich editor content. So you can almost if I know in GitHub you can sort of say /table, and then you can define like, hey, give me this sort of table, and then you can fill in those pieces. This is like that, but better, because it can include these responsive grids with up to 12 columns wide. You can split them into 2 columns, or each take a third of the space, or you can do more advanced layouts. It's a little bit difficult to describe, but that being said, there is another video demo in here, so you can see exactly how this works. The interface looks really clean, really nice, and if you've ever needed to insert grids using something like that, it's definitely going to be a welcome addition. You also have the text color tool, which is available inside of that rich editor, so you can select some text and then say, here is the color I'd like that text to be, which is interesting. You also have images and things like that available in there. Okay. There is a new table repeater in version 4 that makes it possible to render each form field in its own table cell, but it has now a compact design. So they look seamless when the cells. Things like selects and text inputs previously, they would sort of break the layout of it. And so now with this compact design, it really makes them fit within a single cell there. And then as you mouse over them, they'll expand to fill the space that's needed in order to display all that information. So really, really cool there. New table layouts for repeatable entries, but like for info list entries that allows you to output static tables, including schemas with text, icons, images, and more. There's an empty state schema component. This is pretty cool because we've all had to define these ourselves previously. If there's something that you've said, hey, there's nothing here for you to see, you now have a schema component that will insert an empty state anywhere inside your application, so you don't have to do that yourself. There's also a brand new Filament version 4 plugin ecosystem. 224 version 4 plugins that are now available on there. Some really cool ones: passkeys, prism theme, header select. There's a bunch of them in there. They're more getting added all the time. Dan Heron wrote this one up. Thanks so much, Dan, for doing so. And you should definitely check out Filament version 4.1 today if you can. Just a composer update away from version 4.0. There you have it. Also, if you're not on the Discord server and you're heavy into Filament, you should definitely do so. A lot of good conversations and stuff going on over there. Check that one out.
Yes. PrettyPHP is an opinionated code formatter that is a fast, deterministic code formatter for PHP written in PHP. It has sensible defaults and runs without configuration. So I assume this is very much in the same spirit as Prettier is for like JavaScript and CSS. It is configurable now, but it was originally launched with like, no, this is just how it is, and that's that. So the command line application has a VS Code extension that allows you to format your files and on save. Now, there's no reason to ditch Laravel Pint or PHP CS Fixer if you're still using that to handle formatting in your Laravel projects. However, this project being a PHP formatter indicates a healthy PHP ecosystem that is growing with new tools. And the author of this article, Mr. Paul Redmond, likes that PrettyPHP is opinionated, and using it to format your projects will ensure consistent formatting across all files, and has defaults for Symfony, Drupal, Laravel, and WordPress. It formats code written for PHP 8.4 and below. So it does support property hooks, for example, which has taken some time in other tools that I use to get full support. Code is formatted for readability, consistency, and small diffs. Any previous formatting is ignored and nothing other than white space is changed. Entire files are formatted in place. Formatting options are deliberately limited. PrettyPHP is opinionated, so you don't have to be. Configuration is via a simple JSON file, which is supported but not required, and formatted and original code are compared for equivalence. It is compliant with PSR 12 and PER, so you can see more details about that for extra details. And as I said, it supports Symfony, Drupal, Laravel, and WordPress code styles via presets. You can learn more about the project, the configuration, and all of that good stuff. We'll have links for you in the show notes.
Awesome. The next up is we have one called LaraUtilX. So this is a utility toolkit that, quote, every Laravel developer needs. So as I've been reading through this, what it looks like is a team or an individual who has said, there's a lot of things that I've had to write over and over again in applications that I've created that I've decided to just create a bunch of traits for. And so they've packaged all of these up and made them available to you as a sort of grab bag of different solutions that you might want to have solved for you. So CRUD, API responses, validation, filtering, pagination, etc. So what is this? What's the difference between this one and other utility libraries is the first question. So number one, they focus on real world uses. So these are the utilities you'll actually reach for in your production applications. There's no like scaffolding bloat there. It's opt-in. You don't have to use all the pieces. You can just use the ones that you want. It's composable, so they can work together. You can kind of add the different pieces in as you need them. It's not an all or nothing. And then it's consistent. So there's predictable responses, uniform pagination, reusable validation, etc. There's a bunch of things that are in here. I'm going to read a couple of them. So CRUD controller. This is an extendable controller that turns standard CRUD endpoints into a few lines of code. This is good for admin interfaces and APIs. This one is interesting. An API response trait. So deciding how you want to send back JSON responses from an API can be a bit of a challenge. If you've not decided already on a convention and you're deciding for the first time, maybe this would be something you'd reach for. It allows you to standardize those JSON responses across your app. Success, error, paginated responses. Your front end will thank you if you can make sure that these are always consistent and the same. If you've ever had to deal with uploading or deleting or reading file contents for single or multiple file uploads, there's a trait for this. So you don't have to do any of that boilerplate. You just include this file processing trait, and it turns that controller into like a single method and 3 lines. Pretty cool. Validation helper traits. Access log middleware. So it logs all your incoming requests for traceability, audits, performance insights. There's a caching utility. There's a configuration utility. There's an open AI provider. Bunch of different things in here. I'm not going to read through all of them or the examples. Suffice it to say, if this is something that you would be interested in, you can find it in the show notes, or you can find it at github.com/, well, it's not even worth reading it. It's too hard. You're going to have to go look at the show notes. Thank you, Omar, for submitting this one, sending this along.
LaraDumps. LaraDumps is a powerful and user-friendly debugging app.
Did you see all the stuff on Twitter about this?
Look. People are nothing if not juvenile.
Yes, they are. That is right.
LaraDumps is a powerful and user-friendly debugging app that revolutionizes how you debug Laravel applications. Unlike traditional debugging methods that interrupt your application flow or clutter your browser output, LaraDumps displays your debug information in a clean, organized, standalone desktop application. The core tools provided by the application are framework agnostic and should be compatible with any PHP project. However, specific tools for debugging Laravel and Livewire projects are included and also works while testing your software with Pest. Main features includes keeping your app running without interrupting the application flow. There is a persistent history between page refreshes, dedicated interface, multiple dumps, beautiful formatting, and real-time updates. The package also offers Xdebug integration for step-by-step debugging with full Xdebug support, along with a variable inspector that provides beautiful and readable formatting for any variable type. The desktop application features multi-screen support, enabling developers to organize debug output across multiple windows, and the interface includes a theme system with multiple themes powered by Daisy UI and offers a table view to display arrays and objects in searchable tables. It also provides a specialized tools for Laravel development. The route list feature allows developers to view all registered Laravel routes, while the model inspector enables examination of eloquent model attributes. There is some screenshots. It is a very good-looking application. It is, out there in a similar vein to things like obviously Herd's built-in debugging, to Ray. It's another option in the ecosystem, once again demonstrating that the PHP ecosystem is thriving and well, and there is lots of stuff out there for, horses for courses. Different things suit different people. So thanks very much to Yannick for putting this article together.
LaraDumps. All right. Moving on, we have Laravel Starter Kit by Nuno Maduro, another one by Nuno. So there are a number of things that we've talked about in the last year and a half, I suppose you could say, that feel like opt-in features that have been pushed into the framework that you can sort of turn on, but you don't have to. Some of those would be things like strict models, auto-eager loading, immutable dates, forcing HTTPS, safe console, so that you can make sure you don't do things that in production that you should not do, like drop the database or something like that. Asset prefetching, etc. All these different things. Not allowing N+1 queries. Those, right? Nuno's starter kit is a Laravel skeleton for those people who demand meticulous precision in their projects. It is enforcing strictness in type coverage, formatting, maxed static analysis, and more. So all of the PHP stan, pest, rector, pint, and prettier settings are pre-configured to be as strict as possible. So 100% type code coverage, PHP level max, Rector with max privatization, I guess. And then also enhanced test and defaults, like, the pest type coverage requires a minimum of 100%. So it's for those of us who are starting a brand new project and you really want to make sure you're getting off on the right foot, this Laravel skeleton is a great way to start. It's also, if you wanted to, a way to sort of say, okay, if I wanted to get 100, this is what I'd do, but you can also dial it back, right? Some of it is just useful to have as if I wanted to configure these things and I've not configured them before, how would I do so if I was on Team Laravel and setting this up for the first time? So you could go look at the GitHub, the .github folder in these and kind of see how these actions are running. Or how would I configure some of these things? It's also good just for that as well, just for reference. So take it for what it is. Pretty interesting though, and easy to get started with as well. So it has some example text at the bottom here that you would put in to get started, including the creating the project with Composer, CDing in, then Composer install, npm install, et cetera, down the list you go. So good stuff there. Yeah. What do you think, Michael? Would you use that?
No, look, I have enough pain and suffering with PHP standard level 5. I don't, even just going from 5 to 6 has given me nightmares. So I'll just leave this for other people. Enjoy it if you want.
Next time I start a new project, maybe, right? Maybe.
You unravel very quickly.
I believe that.
If you're anything like me.
I am. So I'll take your word for it, my friend. All right, on we go.
The Gemini package for Laravel, developed by Hossein Hazami, is a package designed to integrate with the Google Gemini API. It supports text, image, video, audio, long context, structured output, function calling, and understanding capabilities. The package also supports streaming responses using the stream method. Main features include text generation with both context and history, image generation and understanding, video generation and analysis, audio synthesis and transcription, document processing and understanding, embeddings generation, file management capabilities, real-time streaming, responses, and configurable safety settings. There is a whole suite of these different integrations for different reasons, for different models that will keep evolving. We're in this state of flux, I think, with API at the moment, and it's good to have options. I know that we have spoken about Prism before. TJ spoke about Prism at Laracon US this year. If there is a chance that you want to move between different providers and want to swap things out really simply, then Prism would probably be the way to go. If you just want to use Gemini and always use Gemini, then definitely check out something like this, provider-specific application packages. So we'll have links to that for you in the show notes.
Very cool. I can see the little one has crashed our party. Hey, what's up, kiddo? This is the best part of the show, guys and girls, where the kids enter and just get to say hello. She should wave to the camera. Yeah. Oh, too late.
Off she's gone. It's school holidays, and they are home today with mum, who doesn't have them. Look,
we are not going to complain. We are happy to see them.
They do whatever they want to do for the most part. So you can't.
It is their house too. Yep,
that's right. You could tell. I've told them, like, if the door's shut, it means that I'm in a meeting. Whether it's this or it's with work people, that doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter when they're looking for their Elsa doll or they're looking for their toy. They're coming to look for it.
All bets are off. No holds barred. I got it.
We love them. We love them all.
We do. We absolutely do. All right, folks, another package here, building terminal UIs in PHP with ANSI kit. Now, you might think to yourself, why do we need this? Don't we already have Laravel prompts? Ah, yes, you do, but then it would be dependent on making sure that you're using Laravel. And in that case, you'd say, well, isn't this the Laravel News podcast? To which I would say, yes, it is. But not all of us get to use Laravel all the time. So if you are stuck in a project which is just PHP, or you'd rather not be using Laravel prompts, you're looking for something else, no problem, we've got you covered. ANSI Kit is a zero dependency ANSI escape helper for building terminal UIs in PHP. So No dependencies, right? That is the trick here. It is dependent on
Mm-hmm.
nothing. You include this in your project and you are good to go. So it's got a chainable API for styles, colors, and cursor control, along with useful components and utilities. You might be reminded that in addition to Laravel prompts, we also have had something like this, I think, come out after Laravel prompts, which was talking specifically about some of these things. I think Aaron Francis actually had something like this, where it was dealing with different colors and things like that. So in any case, these are difficult problems to solve. Multiple people have solved them their own ways. But this includes things like being able to style colors, like the background, the foreground. It includes RGB, 256 is another thing that, so here's like 156 colors, I'm guessing is what it's saying. It includes the ability to style using bold, italic, underline, or dim. You can clear the screen, clear a line, clear from on up to a particular place. You can jump the cursor around, and then it also ships with components like tables, banners, and progress bars. So there's a screenshot inside of the blog post here that shows a bunch of the different components that ship with it. There's some example code for how exactly you would get this running in your project. And then there is a listing of all the different features and components that they have. Let me list a couple of them here. I said some of them already, but I'll name some of them again. Table component, banner component, progress bar, spinner, choice, key press, input helper, and more. So Paul Redmond thought this one was worth a write-up. We will trust that it is, in fact, a pretty awesome library. Thanks, Paul, for writing this one up. Everyone's favorite human. Got to say it at least once a show. All right, Michael, back to you.
At least. Tutorial time. You have helpfully, I was going to say handily, but helpfully split this up into 2 tutorials, Livewire specific tutorials, framework reminders, and videos. And I am just going to read through all the headlines and leave links to each of them in the show notes for you to follow up. So tutorials first. Debugging and logging in Laravel applications. The team at Sentry recently published a helpful guide on how to make the most of Laravel's built-in debugging and logging tools and how to use Sentry to debug Laravel apps in production effectively. There is an introduction to MongoDB and Laravel MongoDB setup. There is the hidden cost of MySQL defaults in Laravel apps. I don't know what is going on with this image. There's a horse, there's a girl with a lollipop.
It looks very creepy. Yeah, it's
the hidden cost is apparently creepy Wednesday Addams-esque imagery. I don't know what has happened here. All right.
I will say this one is one of the most interesting ones to me. This one was written up by Eric Barnes, but it's basically like if you just start MySQL and just ship it, and you don't do anything with like your InnoDB pool size. Holy cow, we have run into this recently and it was a pain. So if you have not looked at any of these things, it's definitely worth looking at once. And then it's also some tools like MySQL Tuner, like what, it's basically going to run some stuff that's going to tell you, oh, you're not doing this efficiently. You should check this out. I am reading this as soon as our show is done. So just telling you, this one looks really good.
Anyway, as promised, Livewire session properties for persistent component state, Livewire wireclick.prevent for form handling. We also have 2 more of Harris's, what do we call it? Advanced, efficient, effective. I really should write it down. Harris's series on writing good Laravel, testing your reporting system with Laravel factories and assertions, and profiling Laravel, how to find hidden performance killers. And then lastly, 3 framework reminders for you this week. Laravel collection pluck method gains closure transformation power. Laravel configuration arrays made simpler with config collection. And Laravel custom validation rules for enhanced data integrity. That is all of the tutorials this week. I will have links to them all for you in the show notes. Make sure you check them out on YouTube, on in your podcatcher of choice. All of the links are there.
Absolutely. They are in your podcatcher of choice. They've gotten they're all broken down. It's really well done, and you can actually click around to the different sections inside of the podcast as well. If you're only interested in particular pieces, that's one I'm interested in. Let me click through that one. You can skip through the rest of them. That's fine too. Folks, episode 246, the one you just listened to, you can find show notes for this at podcast.laravel-news.com/246. We'd really appreciate it if you'd rate us up in your podcatcher of choice, as we spoke about. 5 stars would be incredible. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you on X, on Blue Sky, at Jacob Bennett, at Michael Dorinda, or at Laravel News. Folks, until next time, it's been wonderful. We'll see you.
Bye all.